On this off day for the Toronto Blue Jays, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had a few more things to say about his future with the team, so we'll break that down on this episode of Jays Digest, as well as Cal Raleigh. He called out John Schneider because Schneider had some more than questionable things to say about the Seattle Mariners catcher, so let's just put it that way. We'll have that and much more coming up next. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And of course, the minute I say the Blue Jays had a chance to win 6 in a row and really start this homestand on fire, they go out and do what they did yesterday. An extra innings loss in which Cal Raleigh was the maestro of that for the Seattle Mariners in the top of the 10th inning. Unfortunate series of events for the Blue Jays. They couldn't get the job done yesterday. They still won the series, and they got 3 games coming up this weekend against the Colorado Rockies. So that's going to be their chance to rattle off 5 wins in 6 games. Don't want to proclaim them as winners yet because the games haven't been played, but the Rockies have not been good to start off this season, and the Blue Jays have every opportunity to go out and separate themselves a little bit more from that 500 mark that we've been accustomed to seeing so far. But Nick, the thing we want to discuss today is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., whose performance has left a little bit to be desired in this early part of the season. But he has said that he wants to be a Toronto Blue Jay. He has hinted at that multiple times. He seems very happy with his teammates and very content with where he's at in his career. But is it the right move for the Blue Jays to keep him? Is it the right move to give him a boatload of money? Those are all the things that we're going to discuss today. But Nick, my first inclination is that we got to see a little bit more from Vladdy before proclaiming him to be the guy.
Yeah, I made some very interesting comments. Before we get into it, a quick reminder, hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 13,000, but let's just get right into it. And you mentioned it, Peter. He had a bit of a cryptic message there, and obviously you said it. He does want to be a Blue Jay for life, but here's the exact thing he said. And shout out to Hector Gomez for translating. He said, "I would like the Blue Jays to offer me a contract extension, but they have not done so yet. Right now I am focused day after day. I'm calm because no matter what, they are going to have to pay me sooner or later, whether it's this team or another." Now, that last sentence might scare some Jays fans a little bit. I don't think he necessarily meant anything bad by that or saying he wants to leave the Blue Jays. But, Peter, it's proof right there that the Jays have yet to offer him a contract extension, which kind of makes sense given his up-and-down performances the past few years. But do you have any thoughts on this comment? He's right. Someone's going to pay him sooner than later. Who knows how much it's going to be, and who knows if it's going to be the Blue Jays. You'd like to think most likely it would be, but an interesting message directly from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Came out a few days ago.
I think, obviously he's right that someone is going to pay him because he's still a good major league player and someone that a lot of teams could use, and I think the Blue Jays could use as well. But that's the big question mark, right? It's the price tag. How much money are you going to have to give to Vladdy to keep him in town, or how much money are you going to have to give to Vladdy to pry him away from Toronto? Those are all questions that are going to be answered within the next 2 years or so. But I still have question marks surrounding him, Nick. Like, obviously before the season we thought, okay, this would be it. He's coming in great shape, he's ready to go, but he's reverted back to his old tendencies of not taking pitches, being impatient, and not doing as much damage as he should be doing on pitches that are center cut and stuff that he used to damage in his 2021 campaign where he finished second in MVP voting. He's a far cry from that player that we saw in 2021, and for what reason, I don't know. Maybe he'll never get back to those lofty standards that he set in that year, but Nick, it's a little bit concerning now because we're going on 2 years plus of Vladdy just underachieving and not hitting those same milestones that he hit in that runner-up season where he had 48 home runs and over 100 RBIs and an OPS over 1. Like, we haven't even seen numbers close to that from Vladdy in the past 2 years plus. So how much is he worth on the open market? A first baseman that doesn't offer too much value in terms of other aspects of the game like defense and base running. Where does he fit? Where does he fit in those contract negotiations? Because he's still a very good player. He's an all-star caliber player. But he wants to be paid like he's the guy, but he hasn't performed like he's the guy in the past 2 seasons. So that's why it's a little bit of a question mark for me on that end.
Yeah, and you look at his stats. I mean, you mentioned it, 48 home runs in 2021, and then, I mean, we've shown this before. We've had this conversation a little bit. He's only had above an 800 OPS twice in his career. He hasn't the past well, in 2023, and obviously his first couple years were a bit rough as well. But the question about this comment now, and obviously this season he's off to a bit of a slow start. He does have 3 home runs. He hit one yesterday. Is I mean, it kind of makes sense from the Blue Jays' perspective about why they haven't offered him a contract. He's yet to perform up to the expectations that he obviously holds himself to and that the Blue Jays hold himself to. They're probably going to wait, and you said it before. I think we discussed it in the offseason that he'll probably wait until after this year for there to be, big ongoing conversations. Because this is a big year for Vladdy. It's obviously a big year for the Blue Jays and to see what they're going to do going forward. But yeah, the last bit there scares me a little bit. Some team is going to pay him. Hopefully it's the Toronto Blue Jays, depending on what he does. And who knows how much Vladdy's going to be asking for. Because if he's asking for 300-400 million while putting up a 700 OPS in 2 seasons in a row, that's going to be a tough ask.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And look, I know a lot of fans are frustrated with how Vladdy has performed, but the team is not better without him. Let's not kid ourselves. This team is not going to be better with Kevin Biggio starting every day at first base, or let's say a veteran like Carlos Santana starting at first base. The team is much better off if they have Vladdy in that lineup day in, day out, hitting third or hitting second, wherever John Schneider decides to put him. So I think it's something that should get done. I think it's something that needs to get done. But in terms of that $300 million figure that we were talking about after his MVP season or even in the offseason leading up to the next year, I don't think he's going to get anywhere near that. He'll get a contract from somebody. But that 2021 year is looking more and more like an outlier because you look at those career numbers, OPS under 800 in 4 out of 5 seasons so far that were not 2021. And I mean, he hasn't even gotten close to those numbers, like the slugging percentage. He's been in the fours his entire career. And one year he just shoots up to 600, where he's playing the majority of his games in minor league ballparks and in front of not too many fans. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of him as a player. I think he's so talented. I think in terms of just talent overall, he's one of the best players in the game. But he struggles to put it together at times, and he has fun. He has fun out there, but I think there's a time and place for him to take things a little bit more serious, and we haven't seen that killer instinct from Vladdy after that 2021 season. So it's a bit concerning to me, and I don't know where the Blue Jays go from here in terms of just pure overall money.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep an eye out on it. And these comments, I mean, it's good that he wants to be a Blue Jay, and we'll see what happens with that. But let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on Vladdy. But let's move on now, Peter. I know you weren't there for the video yesterday, but Schneider did get called out from Cal Raleigh, or by Cal Raleigh, and there's a lot to decipher here. We're only going to cover it a little bit, but here's what he had to say. After Cal Raleigh had a 2-homer game last year, John Schneider said, he's not very tough to pitch to when you execute. And then today, yesterday, I guess, after Raleigh hit that go-ahead home run in the top of the 10th, he said, I know a lot of guys have beef with him in the league. His comments aren't surprising, and he says, I don't have much to say. If you don't have anything nice to say at all, don't say it if you don't want it to come back to bite you. So he called out John Schneider there. Cal Raleigh did in a pretty direct manner, and obviously I didn't even know that John Schneider said this, or I don't remember him saying this last year. Obviously happened. I guess I just we missed that. But Peter, what are your thoughts on this? Apparently a lot of guys have beef with John Schneider in the league.
John Schneider sticks up for his players. That's one thing that you can't take away from him. So I think players have beef with him because he'll ride or die for his guys no matter what they're doing or no matter how they're performing on the field. Like he always has great things to say about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Even when he goes through cold streaks, he's very like complimentary of his players. He loves his guys, and he's a player's manager through and through. That could rub some other teams the wrong way. I don't have a problem with other teams not liking John Schneider. The guys in the clubhouse seem to like him, but those comments that he made about Cal Raleigh, I think they're completely false because the last time I checked, it looks like Cal Raleigh has part ownership of the Toronto Blue Jays, the way that he just pounds them every time that these two teams match up. And he is tough to pitch to because the Jays can't seem to figure it out. What does he have? 9 home runs in 15 games at the Rogers Center? Something ridiculous like that. And I think he's got the lowest amount of plate appearances per home run. So I saw the number flash up on the screen. It's probably even lower right now. In the opening game of the series, he had like 6.5 plate appearances in between home runs at the Rogers Center or against the Blue Jays, something like that. So whatever they're doing to Cal Raleigh to try to get him out, it's not working because he seems to find the seats with regularity at the Rogers Center and whenever he faces the Jays. So I have no problem with John Schneider not being well liked around the league. What's important is that the guys like you and that you have a good relationship with your star players and all your players at that. But I don't care if Cal Raleigh doesn't like John Schneider. A lot of people don't like opposing managers. People didn't like John Gibbons around the league. People didn't like Buck Showalter around Major League Baseball, but they're successful and they got the job done. So that's what matters at the end of the day. You got to get the job done if you're John Schneider, and then that rest, that other stuff, don't care about it.
Yeah, I don't care that people in theory don't like John Schneider. You said it, the players love him, and that's what matters the most. But I would say that he's definitely pretty tough to touch, or pretty tough to pitch to when you execute, even when you execute, because of all these home runs. Unless none of the Jays pitchers have executed their entire time they've been pitching against him. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section on all that. It's going to be very interesting. Hopefully the Jays can sweep, at least start with a win tomorrow against the Rockies. If you want to check out a video from yesterday, click on your screen now, and we'll see you then.